So, as we say here in Harambe Twende, that means let's go. So, Jumbo, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan. I'm going to be your guide through the Harambe Reserve. And before we get too far into it, we have just a couple of things we need to go over. First and foremost, folks, please make sure that you are completely seated for the entire safari. Now, that is going to include children and any children that are sitting on your laps. So, parents, this one is for you. Please watch your kids and please do not pick them up to see the animals. The roads in the reserve are bumpy and remaining in your seat is in your best interest. Also, make sure that you keep your hands, arms, feet, legs, personal items inside the truck, because if you drop anything, well, we're not allowed to stop to pick it up. You're going to be taking pictures today. Now will be a great time for you to get your cameras out and get them ready. If you have the option, switch them over to an action or a sport setting, or just anything with the fast shutter speed. We may not be able to stop for every animal that we come across, and even if we stop for some of them, well, that is by no means a guarantee that the animals themselves have stopped moving, and it's just make sure that your pictures come out as clearly as possible. It looks like we're getting the all clear from the warden, so we're going to head on into the reserve. We're going to go in through the Little Ituri Forest. Lots of thick cover out here, so the animals that live in the forest very well adapted to this environment. They have unique colorations and markings on them that will help them to blend in with their surroundings as we're going along. To make sure that you're keeping your eyes open, you're looking anywhere and everywhere, or pretty much anything. Now, sometimes it takes a moment or two for your eyes to adjust. That way you can figure out what you need to look at, and then you can figure out what you need to look for, and then you can figure out that there is nothing in this part of the forest. Yep. So we're going to head over to the water hole. Great place to go, just whatever you're looking for wildlife. Because at some point during the day, everything is going to come down for a drink. Oftentimes, it's your best chance to see some of the rare species that live in an area. One of the rarest animals in the forest is the black rhino. You don't really see them that often. There's only about 5,000 black rhinos left in the world. Rhino populations are dropping because they're being poached for their horn. Rhino horn has a very high price on the black market. I'm still seeing a whole lot of nothing, which means this is going to be a long 2 weeks. But just because we don't see any animals doesn't mean they're not here. They could be in this thick cover, we'll go right by. We'll never know that they were there unless they advertise their presence in some way. And even then, you might only be lucky enough to see a quick flick of an ear or a swish of a tail. Finally, we're getting some wildlife in the area. Up on top of this hill here to the left, there's some bongo. They're a type of antelope. Males and females have horns. They sit back on their head a little bit. Helps the bongo to navigate through the underbrush. Way off to the right there, next to those clumps of bamboo, another type of antelope. Those are greater kudu. Those are actually females. It's the males that get large spiral-shaped horns on top of their head. They're about 5 feet tall at the shoulder. We're now going to start to make our way into the Safi River. We had a few reports coming in of hippo activity, so we're going to check it out. And when you go searching for hippos, one of the first places you should look is the water. That's where hippos are going to spend most of their day. The water keeps the hippos cool, and it also protects them from the sun. They really only come out on land at night, which is when they do most of their grazing, or during the day when they want to prove a safari guide wrong, because there's a hippo on our right-hand side. And because you can see the entire animal out of the water, you can appreciate just how massive hippos are. They can tip the scales at about 5,500 pounds. When they're in the water, perfectly adapted to living there, they can stay under with really just their eyes, their ears, and their nose above the waterline. And when a hippo goes under the water, they can hold their breath for about 8 minutes. If you don't see them right up, you sometimes have to look for bubbles, ripples, or signs of movement, trying to figure out if they're actually in the area. There might be something moving through the water here on our left-hand side around this island where those large gray birds are nesting. Those are the pink-backed pelicans. They get their name from the pink coloration that appears on their backs during the breeding season. Now, the hippos are moving through the water. They're probably not going to be swimming. I mean, hippos can swim. They're really good at it. They just don't do it that often. Most of the time, they walk along the bottom of the river. You can see the water's kind of murky, so if they're going along, we're not going to see anything until they come up for air. There's another hippo out on the shore, so I think we're going to stop here for just a second so you can watch it moving along. And just in case you were wondering, have a seat, folks, so don't pick your kids up. Thank you. All the way down. There you go. Just in case you were wondering, sometimes people wonder, hippos have 4 toes. We're going to cross over a bridge in just a second. Looks like there's a few Nile crocodiles below us. Very large reptiles. Former Nile crocodiles about 20 feet long. Just like all crocodilians, they have really strong jaws. They have a bite force that's about 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So when they latch onto something, they usually don't let go. There's a few breaks in the tree line off to our left-hand side. That is a good indication we're going to be heading out of the forest. We're eventually going to be making our way out onto the savanna. And that's a completely different ecosystem. With a little bit of luck, when we get out there, we're going to be able to see some different animals. But it also means we're going to be seeing a pretty drastic change in the vegetation. There's going to be fewer and fewer trees. There's going to be a lot more grasses. That doesn't mean the trees are non-existent. Actually, far from it. One of my favorites is here on the right. This is a baobab tree. Now, baobabs are sometimes known as upside-down trees. You take one good look at them, and, well, you can see why they would get called that. It's because their branches look like roots. Appearances aside, though, amazing plants. They have the ability to conserve water by going leafless for about 9 months out of the year. Now, there is the change in the vegetation that I was talking about. And that means we've reached our destination. And as we were going down this hill, you're going to start to see that the Serengeti stretches across East Africa, really just for miles and miles and miles. The zebra and the wildebeest use it a lot like a superhighway during their migrations. And this is the wild Africa that we're trying so hard to protect. Now, once we actually start moving through the savannah, we're going to be going past a lot of major game trails. That means animals come and go through here all the time. And as they make their way through, they kind of shape the look of the landscape. It's the giraffes that will eat the leaves on the trees. So that creates holes in the canopy. So that way, the light can hit the ground, and then the grass will start to grow. Now, the grass grows quickly out here. You can see in some spots, it's really tall. That's when the larger herbivores, like the zebra, the eland, the wildebeest, they come through, mow everything down. That gives smaller animals, like gazelles and warthogs, the opportunity to nibble away at all the shoots of the plants, and they trim up the edges. So in a perfectly balanced ecosystem, there's going to be enough food for everybody. Now, there's a couple of big woolly cattle way off there to our right-hand side. We're going to go up and around. We'll try to get a little bit better view of them. I don't think they're going anywhere. But we'll see what happens. Never really know around here what the animals are going to do. The reserve itself is about 800 square miles, and they can come and go as they please. Sometimes that makes looking for them a little bit of a challenge, especially if you're trying to look for a particular species.
He's trying to find an animal.
Alright, looks like before we get up to the coulee, we're going to go past a few more animals. They're going to be off here to the right-hand side, left-hand side, I should say. They're on the right now, but we'll actually get a good view of them beyond the left. The gray animals are white-bearded wildebeest. Wildebeest are sometimes known as gnu. That is spelled G-N-U. They got that name from the low grunting noise that they make. Now, the wildebeest take part in pretty much the largest migration out here in Africa. And when they migrate through the Serengeti, they can do so by the tens of thousands, so it's always a pretty impressive sight. On the left, past the wildebeest, kind of right up by the grass line there, there's going to be that very large light brown animal. That is a Patterson's eland, largest species of antelope here in the reserve. That eland is about 6 feet tall at the shoulder, weighs about 2,000 pounds, so very large. But eland are very good jumpers. From a standing position, they can vertically jump about 8 feet, which is pretty impressive, considering I can only get a couple of inches off the ground if I try.
Yeah.
So there's the Ukuli cattle that we saw as we were coming around here. Those horns are about 6 feet long. And they are the only domesticated animals that you're going to find in the reserve. They were originally bred by the Watusi tribe to live right alongside the wildlife. Now, 6 foot long horn is going to be heavy, but it's not as heavy as you think. It's not solid on the inside. There's a honeycomb-shaped structure in there. It helps to keep a lot of the weight off while still keeping that horn structurally strong. Those horns are also filled with blood vessels, so they help the Ukuli to regulate their body temperature. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, all the cones that we went by, those were termite mounds, and they're about as hard as concrete. And when the termite mounds are really tall, a lot of larger animals out here, but the elephants especially, they use them as scratching posts. Elephants weigh thousands and thousands of pounds. They also have very rough skin, so over time, they wear the termite mounds down. And then once they get to be the right shape and size, that's when a lot of smaller animals, we're going to use them to look into the grass to see if there's any potential predators. Because in some spots out here, the grass can grow about 8 to 10 feet tall. One of the largest predators on the savanna is the lion. Full-grown lion is 3.5, maybe 4 feet tall at the shoulder if it's a really large lion. But I'm sure you can do the math. A lion can walk into that grass, completely disappear from view. Like there's a whole lot of nothing on this side of the savanna. Well, never mind. I thought I saw something moving, but it was just a branch in the wind. That happens. And I may or may not, on occasion, mistake an animal for a rock. I mean, it's off in the distance. You can only do so much. That's why you get closer, then you investigate. Wow. A little bit farther up here, there's going to be some giraffes. 2 types of giraffe live in the reserve. There is the Maasai. There's also the reticulated. Now, the way that you tell the difference is by looking at their spots. Reticulated giraffes have a net-like pattern to their spots, and that's how they get their name. It's from the Latin word reticulata, which means net. The Maasais are just a little bit darker in color. The thing that sets them apart is that their spots have more of an irregular shape to them. Doesn't really matter, though, what type of giraffe it is. There's some distinguishing characteristics just for giraffes as a whole. One of the things that makes a giraffe is its very long neck. There's only 7 neck bones in a giraffe's neck. That's the same number as in a human. Just that in a giraffe, their neck bones are going to be a little bit larger than ours. So a full-grown giraffe is about 18 to 20 feet tall. Let's kind of put that in perspective for you. A giraffe is about as tall as a crocodile is long. Now, because the giraffes have the long necks, and because they have the long legs, they obviously have to have some high blood pressure. The estimate is it's about twice that of a human. The blood needs to go all the way up to the top, then all the way down to the bottom. And in order to pump the blood through their body, they have a heart that weighs about 25 pounds. So it looks like there's a few sable antelope on our right-hand side. The official emblem of the Harambe Reserve. Female and the juvenile sables kind of a reddish-brown color. The males and the dominant individuals get very dark brown, and their horns can grow to about 5 feet long. There is a ridiculously close-up view of a giraffe. We will go pull it very slowly by.
Yeah, great. That was really close.
A bit closer. And we're going to leave these giraffes behind because we're going to head down to elephant country. Before we get too far in, we'll make a quick stop at Monkey Point, which got its name from a troop of mandrills that have been known to come through the area. Mandrills, I like to say it's a pretty thick cover. Sometimes they can be a challenge to find, but they live in large troops. Some mandrill troops have been documented as having up to 100 individuals. They're very colorful monkeys. They have bright red and blue coloration on them. It's really pronounced. And the dominant male, who is also significantly larger than the rest of the members of the troop. If he's ever around, he is usually the easiest one to identify. And it looks like there's something moving in those bushes on our left-hand side, so there might be a mandrill. Normally you just have to look in the trees, around the trees, by the termite mounds and the rock formations, trying to find them. What I can tell you is that there have been some elephants through here. If you look all around, you can see all the trees on the ground and all the limb damage. It's the elephants that did that. They are the bulldozers of the savannah. So if there's something up in a tree that an elephant wants that it can't reach, well, it's knocking the tree down to get to it. I know that makes it seem like elephants are destructive animals, but really beneficial for the environment. Whatever they leave behind becomes food or shelter for a lot of smaller species. And we're going to start to head over to the red clay pits. That's the best place in the reserve to look for an elephant. Hopefully we'll find something. With the main road out, we got to take this bypass around. It means we got to go through all this thick vegetation. And that means we need to be on the lookout for any elephants that might be coming through here. It's going to sound a little odd. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. But an animal that is as large as an elephant has the potential to hide in this thick vegetation. Now, as elephants make their way through an area, they usually don't make a lot of noise that we can hear. The majority of an elephant's vocalizations are below our hearing range. And when you're out here, you're not paying close attention to what's going on around you. An elephant can appear with little to no warning. So we made it into the clay pits. I don't see any elephants, but I do see tusk marks from where they've been digging. They come down here to eat the clay. It gives them a lot of beneficial minerals into their diet that they don't get from the vegetation that they eat. Wait a minute. There they are on our left-hand side. They're pretty spread out, so we're just going to keep moving up and around, trying to get to as many elephants as possible. There's also a good clearing. Once we're out of it, these trees I should say, we should be able to pick up the signal from one of Harambe's radio stations. We can probably get some music going as we're moving along here. But because there is more than one elephant in the area, this is a herd. Herds are multi-generational. They are the females and their offspring. The herd itself is led by the matriarch, who's usually the oldest female. Over the years, she's learned where all the food and all the water sources are on the migration routes. Then she takes her herd to those places. Elephants are constantly on the move, and they're covering a large amount of space, really just because they're looking for food. They eat about 300 pounds of food a day. Sometimes just as the elephants are looking for something to eat, they're going to come into contact with people. That's when it gets dangerous, not just for the humans, but also for the elephants. And one of the best ways we can help elephants around the world is by supporting conservation organizations. Like if you're on our left-hand side, there's some greater flamingos. One of the larger species of flamingo. They're also one of the less pink. You look closely, you should be able to see some pink coloration on them. All flamingos turn pink. It's because of the food that they eat. They eat shrimp and other small invertebrates. So off on our left-hand side is a mud wallow on its own. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. Actually, I was going to say that means rhinos have been through the area. Well, there they are. Some white rhinos are on the move. They got their name from the mispronunciation of the Afrikaans word "vite," which means wide. That was describing that big square lip that they have. They use that for grazing. Each one of these rhinos is about 5,000 pounds, capable of reaching speeds of about 35 miles an hour. Now, the wood rhino is one of Africa's greatest conservation success stories. They were hunted to near extinction for their horn, but it's because of conservation efforts and reserves that their populations were able to make a comeback, which is great news. They still need a lot of protection. They're still poached for their horn all over Africa, which isn't, I should say, their horn isn't actually a true horn. It's made out of the same material as our hair and our fingernails. You probably saw on the right-hand side up that trail there were some great zebra on the move. If we keep going around, we're going to be on the other side of that trail. We should be able to get a little bit better view of them. We're going to see what happens.
Wow, look at those rhinos. Yeah.
Off here on the left-hand side of us, top of that hill, there's a pair of cheetahs. Let's see if I can get a good spot. There's one right behind the tree next to the termite mound, like right up against the tree line itself. There's another one a little bit farther down. It's pretty much flat out. Cheetahs are the fastest land animals, able to reach speeds of about 60 miles an hour. They don't have a lot of stamina, so they can only keep their speeds going for short distances. Now, cheetahs rely on their eyesight a lot more than their other senses, so they hunt during the daytime. That gives them a competitive edge over larger and more nocturnal carnivores. closer and closer to where we saw those zebras. Looks like we just got to go around this rock formation first. It's called the Kobe. Lions will sometimes use them to look for prey just because it's up off the ground. Gives them a good view of the surrounding area. But normally you don't see lions up and about during the daytime. They are nocturnal animals. That means that they're active mostly at night. But also one of the big things, lions are inactive for about 20 hours out of the day. They spend most of their time just resting and conserving their energy for when they go out on the hunt. So another white rhino up on top of the hill there to the right-hand side. Actually, there's a couple of them. Which kind of goes to show animals, large rhinos can hide in some light cover. Just like a human fingerprint. No two zebras have the same stripe pattern. Each one is unique to the individual. There's a lion on our left-hand side. Actually, looks like a couple of lions. And without too much of an exaggeration, this is the most activity you're probably going to see out of them until the sun starts to go down.
Yeah, the males
Before we get back around to the zebras, looks like we're going to go past a warthog here on our left-hand side. Largest burrowing animal in Africa. Now, if you look very, very closely, you're going to see, well, it might be a little difficult with the sunrise. Warthogs have two sets of tusks. There's a pair on the top of the mouth, a pair on the bottom. And when they go into their burrows, they go in facing out. That way, they can use their tusks to defend themselves. Alright, so there's a couple of white rhinos. There's the great zebra just past them on our right-hand side. The question that always comes up with zebra is the question of their color. Are they black with white stripes or white with black stripes? Well, folks, zebras are actually black with white stripes, and the way that you can tell is by looking at their nose. Their nose is black, and that's their skin color. A little bit further up here on the right-hand side is an ostrich, largest bird in the world. Ostrich have wings, but just because of their size, they are unable to fly. So instead, they run. They're not as fast as a cheetah. Ostrich can only reach speeds of about 40 miles an hour, but they have a lot more stamina, so they can keep those speeds going over longer distances. You can also see that we're coming up on a transitional zone. We're starting to head back towards the forest, and the vegetation is getting a little bit thicker, so we need to be on the lookout for any animals that might be coming through here. Like farther up here on the left-hand side of us are some addax. They're a type of antelope, very rare animals. Out in the wilds of Africa, there's only about 300 addax remaining. One of the reasons why they're so few, they are losing their habitat. It's being converted into farmland. But they are amazing animals. They get almost all the moisture they need to survive just from the food that they eat. The birds that are off to the right-hand side of us, those are yellow-billed storks. Yellow-bills are opportunistic feeders. They eat fish, amphibians, reptiles, small birds, mammals, invertebrates, whatever is small enough for them to catch in their beaks. But it doesn't really matter how big or how small an animal is. Habitat's the key to its survival, and that just means it's able to find all the food, water, and shelter that it needs. There's a lot that we can do to make sure that there's habitat for animals, but especially for the animals that live right in our own backyards. Planting native grasses and trees and flowers is going to be food and shelter for a lot of different species. You can always take it the next step. You can put in a bird bath or a totem boat or even a bat box. Despite the reputation, bats are really beneficial animals to have around. During the course of an evening, one bat is going to eat a few thousand bugs. They're especially fond of eating mosquitoes. Now, in just a few moments, we are going to be up to important books that we're going to go right by it because I won't be dropping you off there. I'm going to drop you off right where I picked you up. Just going to need to go ahead and call up to the wardens, let them know that we're on the way, so that way they are ready for us when we get there.
Wow, that was a big surprise.